Why, hello, friends and fans of the podcast. Welcome to another episode of B Sharp and C a la mode. Today I'm going to just simply rant about something, and I'm going to send mixed messages because I actually appreciate and like the thing about which I'm going to rant, but it's not the only thing that exists. And I think that the guitubists, the guitarists that sit there and just post stuff on YouTube all the time about their guitar playing, I think the guitubists are actually doing a little bit of, I dare say, bad for the guitar universe. What the heck is happening, first of all, in the guitar universe? Like 98.812% of all guitubists think that they need to only focus on shredding. And a part of me thinks that this is a sign or like an admission that the guitar in music is dying. Here's the kicker. Here's why I'm doing this episode. Guitar in music is not dying, but when you go guitubing and creating videos of you only shredding, you are saying essentially that this exercise, this thing that you're doing, is all the guitar has to offer. The music isn't important. But let's admit it, guitubists, shredding is very, very, very unmelodic. I will prove to you that shredding has its place and needs to be in measure. I bet you can't understand the damn thing I'm saying right now. And even if you could understand a word or two here and there, then you have to struggle to get the content and then struggle to identify what's being said. You see?
Raise your hand if you can identify with what I just said.
Music is art, and one needs to identify with art. But let's just define what I'm talking about. It's important we do that. It is very important that we define what I mean when I say that we have to identify with music. And I kind of say that a lot in my podcast. In fact, I will very seldom say, oh, I don't like this artist, but I will say I don't identify with this artist. And one of the reasons why is because it is still art. The person is putting out music and they're just trying really hard to express themselves musically, and they strike a chord with some people, but not with me. So I will say, I really don't identify with that artist. Now, there are some artists that I say that about. I don't identify with such, with so-and-so, but I really want to scream every time I hear so-and-so on the radio. There are some artists out there who I believe are just really fortunate because they have an image that a lot of people identify with, but I think their music is really lacking in music. But anyways, have you ever watched an episode of Penn and Teller's show called Fool Us? It's probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows out there, period. Part of me wants to actually do an episode based on how good this show is. But it's a non-musical show, so I've been flirting with the idea, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. But this show had a magician on. His name is Shin Lim. Really good, really talented, and he doesn't speak. He just has music playing in the background, and he does these card tricks that are very hard to do. It's some of the best sleight of hand I've ever seen. And what Shin Lim does is that he kind of goes with the flow of the music, but he engages the audience. He shows the audience the card, shows the audience that someone signed the card. And before the big reveal, he makes sure that what he's showing the audience in both of his hands is something the audience can absorb. Oh, the audience sees one hand has one card, the other hand has a whole deck. And whoa, he shook his hands, and now the hand that had one card has the deck, and the hand that had the deck only has one card in it. So he does these tricks, but they're easy to identify with. He allows time for the viewer to understand what is about to happen. Now you have the guitubist version of the card trick. He's a guy, He's out there and he's shuffling the cards, he's moving them around. He shows you a card, but before you understand why he's showing you the card, he's shuffling the deck again. And then he does all these things, and then he pulls a card out of his pocket. It's the Jack of Spades. Whoop-de-doo. Some people in the audience go, whoa, ah. But you're thinking to yourself, was I supposed to know something about the Jack of Spades? And he's doing all these things, and he's showing you cards, and every now and then the audience is going, ooh, ah. But you actually don't fully understand what's going on because he's moving a little too fast. You're not able to look at the cards and then identify with the reveal after he shows it to you. He's just moving too fast. You can't identify with it. Now, I believe that sleight of hand, that form of magic, I believe that that is art. So whether it is sleight of hand, a painting on the wall, or music, once it is no longer identifiable to the person viewing it or listening to it, once they are no longer able to follow it, it loses its personal touch. Guitubists lose people when all they do is focus on shredding. Most people, most guitarists don't shred. So what ends up happening is when someone's like, watch me, and they do this 2-minute long video of shredding, yeah, they can wow people, but you're losing people. So before I get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I need to say, first of all, and please understand me when I say this, I love when someone can shred. I love the skills it takes to be able to play the guitar like that, and I really appreciate the amount of work. Trust me, no one just picks up the guitar and starts shredding. Although I've had people actually say to me, wait a second, you're not just a natural guitar player? Nope, I took lessons for a little bit, I practiced scales, and every other human being on the planet who shreds through the neck, shreds over the fretboard and plays fast scales, guess what they had to do? They had to practice those scales. Wow, who would have thunk? But anywho, I love when someone has that ability. Joe Bonamassa can shred. There's a live version of the song Happier Times out there where he does some shredding. Bruce Dickinson has a song after, he did a solo project. He was not with Iron Maiden. He did the song Tears of the Dragon. There is a guitar solo on there that is just, for me, it's perfectly done. Anything Steve Vai does, anything Joe Satriani does, whether it's The Crush of Love or some other song, they both shred in a lot of their songs. I love what they do. I love the entire Metallica Black Album and every guitar solo in it. I sit and watch Eddie Van Halen in wonder as he plays Eruption. Fast playing, yes, shredding is a great way to display your chops and your talent. I've seen trumpeters, violinists, keyboardists all do their version of shredding. It's nice to watch. I also am very aware that the vast majority of the listeners of this podcast like shredding. They love it when someone can display their ability. In fact, the friends and fans of the show have spoken, baby. Listen to these comments. I asked on Instagram, do you like guitar shredding? Over 80% of the listeners said yes. But it's interesting, when I asked if a guitar solo should be fast and furious or slow with swagger, 55% said slow with swagger. So it's interesting. It really depends on how the question is posed. That being said, a lot of the fans of the podcast love shredding. When I asked the fans of the podcast, what do you think of when I say guitar shredding? Friend of the podcast, Sierra, said a crazy guitar solo. And she isn't wrong. No one thinks of a slow melodic guitar solo when they hear the word shredding. Friend of the podcast, Fabio, was very specific. He said, I think of Slash having a solo moment destroying the molecules in the air. Slash is known for his shredding. In fact, the word shred kind of comes from that idea of leaving smoke in the air or pieces of the guitar flying off the neck of the guitar while the person's playing. Friend of the podcast, Jessica, also said Slash. I love how two people mentioned Slash because Slash is known very well for shredding. Now, he's also kind of known for shredding too much and for a lack of accuracy in his shredding, but we can get back to that later. Friend of the podcast, Daniel, says Eruption. Yes, baby, Eddie Van Halen was a shred master. And may I also add an amazing songwriter and keyboardist. In fact, he got criticized by other members of the band because they thought he added too much keyboard in the music. Now, we'll get back to that later in the podcast. But what I would like to focus on is what friend of the podcast, Brett, said. I don't know if he knew this, but he kind of commented right in line with the theme of today's episode. So I asked, what comes to mind when you hear the word guitar shredding? And he says, cheese. I think of cheese when I hear of shredding. Now, maybe we should allow the shredded cheese to have the spotlight back, and let's rethink the shredding of the guitar. And I don't want to make enemies with this episode. I really don't. But being able to shred with the guitar is not, for the love of all that is holy, is not the only goal one should have. In fact, shredding is viewed so much in guitar-heavy music nowadays that good songwriting is taking a hit. A guitar solo should complement a good song. It should not be that a song needs to complement guitar shredding. This backwards way of thinking is making it so guitar-heavy music is viewed as a video game or a competition, and not as a way to freely express feelings. And by the way, the 88 million views by the guitubists who are timing themselves playing fast and having shred competitions, although this is innocent in nature, it's making it so the guitar is now viewed as sporting gear for the Olympic Games. I swear, by 2030, guitar shredding is going to be an Olympic sport. We need to take a step back. Just relax. Put down that smoking guitar. Take a deep breath. Count to 10 and relax. And realize this has got to end. And the actual melodic intent in guitar playing needs to come back. And how about this? I challenge the guitubists. They're up there playing scales. Essentially, it's just fast variations of scales, one after the next, for a long period of time. And that's great. You've acquired an excellent tool for your guitar playing. But the fact that most guitubists are posting videos of them shredding and not posting videos of nice melodic solos kind of makes me think that the shredding is easier. Interesting take on it, Arty. Very few videos are melodic. The guitubists might be admitting that the shredding comes more naturally for them, that it's easier for them. It's interesting. When there are videos on YouTube about, people playing a good melodic solo, it's usually the ones who take guitar playing seriously. I'll give you an example. YouTube videos or YouTube channels that feature backing tracks. Whenever they have a featured guest or whenever the person who's making the video plays a solo, almost 100% of the time it's an identifiable solo with melodic intent. Isn't that something? Guitar courses, blues courses, and other videos that deal with the guitar as a musical instrument and not a bobsled play melodic music. Baby. I think Kirk Hammett is a good example. I love Metallica. Love what Kirk Hammett has done. I love what the whole band has done. They're just great. In my opinion, some of the best guitar solos in metal belong right in those albums by Metallica. He can shred on that thing. But what is he known for? He's known for being really fast. You ever stop and listen to guitar solos in Metallica? What is Kirk Hammett really famous for? What is Metallica really famous for? Are they just a shred band? Well, he shreds in many of his solos, but one thing Metallica is known for is, are you ready? Songs. They have an album with songs. Do you remember when that used to happen? They have great lyrics, great meaning in their lyrics, great meaning in their music, great songs, great songwriting, and great melodic guitar solos, where Kirk Hammett also decides to add a little bit of shredding. But he is adding shredding to already great music and great guitar work, which is identifiable to the listener. Imagine if he didn't focus at all. Imagine if Metallica never really focused on the songwriting and on melody, but let's just write a song so we can shred. Well, they would simply suck if that's what they focused on. But Metallica, congratulations. I mean, I really feel, and this is no wonder why the band is worth almost $1 billion, but I really feel as though they approached music first. Imagine this scene. I invite you over my house for dinner. I have 10 guests, so you are one of 10 guests. You and a plus one are one of 10 guests over my house for dinner. I sit everyone down. I serve appetizers, but I do something a little bit different. I serve pizza for the appetizers. Pizza is done. Appetizers are done. Now comes the main course. I decide to mix things up a little bit, and I serve pizza. And after you are done with the main course, I say, who wants dessert? And I change things up a little bit, and I bring out pizza for dessert and V8 for a nice cold beverage to accompany the pizza. Now, after you're finished vomiting, you're probably going to leave and never come back to my house. Why? Because I served you one thing, essentially, the whole entire night. Pizza has its place in life. So does shredding. We need to be sharp and see that shredding is for cheese. Good guitar work, great, accurate playing, and even fast playing is for the musicians who want to reach their audience. Shredding is fun. It can be very rewarding. It just can't be the only thing we think of when we see a guitar. When did this happen? When did we all of a sudden equate the guitar to crazy fast playing and shredding? Fast playing on the guitar has been around forever. I mean, since the days of Les Paul and Barney Kessel and other greats. Both of them played with great speed, but they also played with clean precision. Not what a lot of people today would describe as shredding. Again, Slash. Think of Slash, right? Slash and Barney Kessel don't live in the same universe. They really don't. But rock and roll, which started in the mid-50s and then kind of took on a more identifiable personality in the mid-60s, brought on the likes of Keith Richards, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, and that fast, crazy way of expressing yourself on guitar came to the fore. But, and this is a big but, both Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix were known for just really wailing on that guitar, but they got to that point because of their music, because of their melodic stuff. They were melodic, they were innovative, they were inventing stuff, they were different. Their way of playing the non-shredding material is what gave them the spotlight so that they could shred. They shredded to showcase their skills because that was cool back then, and it's cool now. But they did it in measure. And yes, they weren't the most accurate shredders in the world, but back then, you really didn't have to be. I did a whole episode on this. People focus on speed and they lose their accuracy. It was really popular in the 60s to just be fast. And producers, guitarists, bandmates, they actually didn't think that what was being played was horribly inaccurate. So it made its way onto albums and live albums and everything else. I still love Jimmy Page, I love Jimi Hendrix, but I love them for their music. I love them for the great and wonderful, innovative way they played the guitar, and I even love them for what they did, shredding included. But they didn't only shred, that's the point. They didn't only shred. Jimmy Page wrote the guitar solo for Stairway to Heaven. There's very little shredding taking place in that guitar solo. It is very melodic and very identifiable. People love it. Now, thanks to the guitubists today, we have insanely fast people playing, and they're very accurate. I mean, if you're a millisecond out of time, 1.2 hertz out of tune, or facing east when you make a guitubing video, then you suck. You have no skills, and you don't even deserve to be in the same room as a guitar. That is what guitubing has done to people today. They make it seem like the only way you're going to be appreciated as a guitarist is if you can play the F harmonic minor scale from fret 1 to fret 12 in 3 seconds. But let's return to our little timeline, okay? So we had grunge and alternative, and rock was dying off in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Early 2000s come, and people began to view the guitar the same way as they view a bobsled, for crying out loud. It was a way to compete, and not really a way to express yourself musically. What the heck? Why? Why does this beautiful instrument, which is so insanely versatile, have to be viewed as a weapon or a tool for those who can play the harmonic scale in 6 seconds? We need to learn from classical music. The best, most recognizable pieces from centuries ago have melodies we can identify with. We can even hum to these pieces. Dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun, right? And then it picks up. What about Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata or Fur-Elise? These have identifiable licks in them. Moonlight Sonata, the full version, was though very slow and beautiful, kind of goes crazy in one version. In the end, I believe it's actually the version. There's crazy scales and stuff in the end of the song. Why? Why not? Why not showcase your talent as a songwriter and a musician? So there are moments, even in classical music, where the composers decide to showcase their skills. But it's a music-first approach. It's not a skills-first approach. That's what we need to change when it comes to the guitar. We need to ease off the gas pedal here, calm it down a little bit, and approach music first. Every instrument, whether it be trumpet, piano, violin, or cello, has people who are able to play them very fast and very technically accurate. But they never only focus on that. That is not the focus. I want to go back to Eddie Van Halen for a second. I think he's an excellent example because he is a shred master. He really is. This man can shred. He can tap. No, he didn't invent tapping, but he sure as heck made it popular. He can blow you away with amazing speed, precision, dexterity, and tapping, and he showed it off a lot. But they are famous because Eddie Van Halen had a musical mind. He leaned to the keyboard when he wrote many of his songs and knew that melodies and harmonies on the keyboard could contribute to his music. And he also added that style in his guitar playing. Believe it or not, the man who made shredding and tapping super famous, he kind of redefined shredding. The man who did that, who amazed us all with his speed, approached music with a music-first approach. Anything he did for show, he did to complement the already well-thought-out song that was written. So do we hate shredding on this podcast? No, we love it, baby. But we believe that the music world needs to remove it from the spotlight. Put good songwriting back in the spotlight, please. Let the shredding happen naturally as we songwriters work hard on a music-first approach to songwriting. If you can shred, show it. Show it in a song. Reach me with something else aside from your fast playing in the harmonic minor scale done in 2 seconds on 24 frets. I can't say it enough. Good songwriting is almost dying, and that is definitely going to be the topic of a future sode. But that is all for this episode. Thank you to all who commented on Instagram. Follow us. Please follow us on Instagram or Facebook under the name BSharpNC. Hit us up on our email, keepitgroovybaby@gmail.com. Look both ways before you cross the street, and never, yes, never underestimate the intelligence and innovation of a hungry raccoon. Until next time, this is your host, Arty Aster, saying, keep it groovy.